Gotta say, man, it really just was really disappointing in a lot of areas. It's just not great.
Hey, fucker! What are you doing? Haha!
What the fuck? King Mickey?
Yes,
What are you doing here?
I'm here to tell you to do the Attack on Titan chapter. Oh,
Oh, I I completely forgot about the chapter. What? Is that why you're dressed like that?
oh, yes, Isayama drew this. Pretty cool, right? Oh,
What the fuck? Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Attack on Titan chapter 114 review, something like that, right? Just right on time. And by that I mean like the next chapter is already gonna come out. Like I bet there's already spoilers floating. So I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. I've been not doing anything. Like I'll just be honest. I've been reading manga, a lot of manga. You want to talk about that? Maybe. We're gonna talk about Attack on Titan though. So let's jump into it. Right? I'm not gonna jump literally. Not this time. That was dangerous. Very dangerous. I don't want to do dangerous shit right now. This video is probably not gonna be super edited as the other ones, unfortunately. I just wanted to release this as fast as I could. You know, that's why I'm releasing this so late. So let's just start. So we start this chapter off with our favorite family, the Jaegers, and they're looking over Liberio. In here we get our typical Attack on Titan dialogue from Grisha. This place is as small as a birdcage. We should be free to go past these walls. The usual. It's almost as if like Eren and Grisha are related or something. I just you gotta love how ironic. It's the fact that the people living in Paredes have much more freedom than these guys. I guess no, like ignorance is bliss, right? Like the less you know, the freer is that a word? More free you think you are. You know what I mean? Anyway, all of a sudden, Sergeant Gross's long lost brother, I guess, shows up, and he's a gender. It's really crazy how he changes his behavior the moment he notices the armbands and knows that these guys are Eldians. And he throws water at them and claims that it's his job to rid the place of filth. Before they leave, he says, "Look at you, breeding that little brat of yours. Why did you give birth to another devil?" This seemingly not important gender is he's what's ultimately gonna push Zeke into his destructive path. But before going into that, let's just go by the chapter order, okay? So they leave the place. More aliens start arresting them and making fun of them. Grisha's unfortunately all wet, and Dean and Zeke are also wet in their face because they're crying. The world is unfair, and if Zeke doesn't like it, he's going to have to change it. In the next scene, we see Zeke now training to be a warrior, and he sucks. Just like Eren, but more importantly, just like Reiner. Now, I don't necessarily agree with this, but do you think it's a little lazy that Isayama is applying a lot of similar traits from Reiner's backstory into Zeke's? Like the bad parents, nobody liked them, they were filler in the training, all that stuff. Like, do you think it's like all of this is just to get some sympathy points or something? Like, what do you think? I guess Isayama just wants us to feel bad about everyone. If that's the case, I gotta say personally, I cannot wait for to see Flock's tragic backstory. It's gonna be great. Anyway, Magath and Xavier are overseeing the training, and as Zeke lags behind, Magath comments on how he hasn't seen real desire to become a warrior from Zeke, unlike the rest of the kids. Now, this makes me think of some stuff like this entire chapter. Really, like this section is really about how young Zeke is afraid of dying and failing, which ultimately that is what affects his performance. But how can these other kids not feel the same way? They're all so young. Like, it's natural for Zeke to feel the way he feels, and I feel like they should probably feel the same way too. They're all applying themselves for what's going to be their death anyway. You know, like I doubt that these kids at such a young age have developed this self-sacrificial mentality of, you know, like doing it so that the rest of their families can have better lives. Like, more likely than not, they were all forced to go through this training too, right? And yeah, I don't know. It's strange. But yeah, like the chapter's not gonna be about like the chapter has to be about Zeke. It can't be about like all these fucking kids. It's from this scene that Xavier starts having an interest in Zeke, but also why Magath seems a little bit harsh to Zeke in later scenes. He's seeing how the kid is being forced to do this, and he's trying to discourage him. Maybe, like in chapter 94, Zeke said that he would catch a beating from Commander Magath. I always thought that was, you know, not little, but, you know, you tell me. Anyway, in the next scene we have the Jaegers talking about Zeke's training. Zeke says that it's really tough, but the parents know that he can do it because he has a special power and he's their son. All this talk brings me back to, you know, the Keith Shady's backstory, you know, about, you know, being special, and especially that one scene where Keith asks Grisha, what if Eren isn't special like him, and Grisha says he's my son. I don't really want to dive into Grisha's character just yet, but yeah, there's a lot to talk about. And Zeke's face here looks a little strange. But yeah, Grisha and Dina take Zeke to his grandparents so they can go to the social dancing club. According to Grisha, he has been recommending this to the people in Liberio to keep them healthy.
An interesting story.
However, Grandpa Jaeger is not a fan of this, and apparently they've been doing this every night and Zeke misses them. They know this, but they are sure someday Zeke will understand what they're doing for him, and then they leave.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of
Lago?
No, I thought not. It's not a story that
Eldians.
would tell you.
Of all things I was expecting from this chapter, clarifying some of the imagery from the season 2 ending credits was not one of them. But yeah, Grandpa Jaeger starts telling the most interesting kid's story of all time. The fall of Lago, which took place 1200 years ago. The large Marleyan city of Lago disappeared over the course of this one day. The Titans only continued their events, going on to commit the devastation of Monte and the ravaging of Valle. Hundreds of thousands of Marleyans were killed by the Eldian Empire. Those who somehow managed to flee Lago were forced to wander the wastes. But the Eldian Empire planted Titans in their escape routes. And as day broke, the Titans awoke, and the Marleyans were... Well, the narration ends here, but Zeke says that a lot of people died. So I guess those last shots in the ending were actually Titans rising out of the ground along with the sun. And who'd have thought that the refugees shown wandering were actually Marleyans and not Eldians? But did this event happen or not? Grandpa says one thing, Grisha later is gonna say another. What's the truth? Well, if you don't remember, according to Cougar, there is no such thing as truth, okay? Truth doesn't matter as long as people believe in something. That's what will shape reality. There's, you know, also the whole winners write history thing. Anyway, Grandpa Jaeger questions if Grisha is telling Zeke the true history, but Zeke is already programmed to lie about this. When asked if he wants to become a warrior and fight for Marley, Zeke looks away before answering, meaning that he's not being truthful when he says that he does want to become a warrior. I also have to look away, but that's because I have to read the things that I'm saying. Okay, I'm not lying. I'm being truthful. Okay, I swear to God. Grandpa tells him to go to bed, and the grandma promises that the next time they will actually read a freaking book for kids, a book about the cat's home. I mean, it sounds like a book for kids. I hope it is. Like, I swear to God, like, if this fucking book is about Eldian cats being devils, I'm gonna fucking scream. And you do not want that. But before we leave this scene, Zeke looks at an old picture of Grisha and his sister, Faye. Looking at her, it still breaks my heart. I remember talking to a friend of mine about like what's been like the worst death in Attack on Titan, and he's an anime only, so I really have to be careful what I say, right? And I have to lie technically. Like he mentioned Mike, actually, and I do agree that technically that might still be the worst death, you know, the most painful one. But just what they did to Faye, what happened to her, was just on a whole other level of cruelty. I can't wait until my friends see that though. Anyway, we move on to another day. Zeke sucks and Magath is watching, and then Zeke sees this alien kid and his dad playing, and his face, he's like genuinely shocked, like, oh my god, a dad and a kid playing? That's possible? So he rushes home, and before he can even ask his dad to play with him, he hits him with a fucking "let's study together," and you can see his face just in one panel, just just yep, like that's all I'm ever gonna do with him. I'm like weirdly excited to see this in the anime, like especially the vocal performance. We jump ahead to the end of their little study session, where basically Grisha denies all the events that Grandpa Jaeger was talking about earlier. Does Grisha have any arguments to back that up? Like last time I checked, like he was looking at the old historical documents of the Eldian Empire, and all he was doing was projecting his own feelings into them. You know, like he couldn't read the damn things. These study sessions shouldn't be that long. If it all, you know, boils down to it, Eldians never did this because I believe so. And Zeke finishes, you know, the session with you know, like, our great founder Ymir would never wish for it. It's impossible. It that is similar to Grisha back in chapter 86. Grisha asks him, how are you able to read this ancient language? And he just replies, I believe in our ancestor Ymir. Like, yeah, sure, buddy. Zeke is just, you know, programmed to say the things Grisha wants to hear, just to get some approval from him. And unfortunately, this is it. Like, this is the last time we're gonna see any of that. Magath claims that Zeke lacks the drive to devote himself to Marley, and an Eldian like him would never be entrusted with one of the nation's titans. This is something that I want you to remember later on, okay? Anyway, as Zeke is once again lagging behind the other warrior candidates, a baseball appears in front of him, and he sees Xavier asking him to toss the ball. Zeke does so, and Xavier compliments his throwing technique, and Zeke is genuinely confused by that, like positive reinforcement, you know, like compliments. That, unfortunately, that is a rarity for him. Zeke then notices the armband, and Xavier reveals himself as the current Beast Titan, and his name is Tom. Okay. What I don't understand is how he says he's the Beast Titan, but he isn't useful in war. How is that possible? Is this like a Ymir and Porco situation where their titans are like massively different? No, I'm not sure. But apparently, Xavier's real job is being a Titan science researcher. As they keep tossing the ball back and forth, Xavier says that Zeke is pretty good at this and that he's a natural pitcher. A real happy moment for Zeke, I'm sure. It's just, you know, not a real happy moment for the countless of other individuals that had to experience his natural skills firsthand. But Zeke eventually returns home, ready to talk about this. But Mom and Dad are having a surprise dance lesson with Grease. Zeke not only stays and overhears the conversation, but he actually opens the freaking door. The topic of their conversation is Zeke himself. And if he can get good grades, the Owl won't be able to intervene in the selection of the next Titan successor. Eventually, they notice Zeke at the door, but Grisha goes to him and reaffirms that Zeke will do it because he's their child. Noticing a pattern here? So, against Magath's advice, Zeke goes to open training and tries to convince him that he has the drive to become a warrior. Magath lets him take part in the open training, but once again, he's lagging behind. This time, however, Zeke's parents are there to truly witness how incapable Zeke is. This is also where Grisha rides the scumbag train real hard, unfortunately. He can't even look at Zeke and eventually leaves, with Dina too. But the scene doesn't even end there. So Zeke is in tears, and as he sees his family leaving, McCaff goes to Zeke and starts yelling at him to keep running. Xavier doesn't even say anything, but his facial expression is pretty telling. He feels bad about it. The next scene is especially heartbreaking, as we can see Zeke just under his blankets, crying, sobbing, while his fucking shit parents don't even bother closing the door. Seriously, what the fuck is up with that? And start arguing about him. I guess hooray for Dina for not being as shitty as Grisha. Good job. Good job. I'm not even moving this hand, just this one. And the next day, Zeke is playing with Xavier, or talking about what happened, and Zeke says that he's now forced to do nothing but odd jobs. Xavier then points out that it didn't look like Zeke wanted to become a warrior, and Zeke simply replies that he had to become one. But now it's impossible because he's just no good. But as far as Xavier knows, that's a good thing. He thinks shortening your lifespan and having to kill other people in a war is fucking stupid. Through the magical power of paths, young Zeke starts quoting Mikasa and says, "Mugu." But he then asks, why did Xavier become a warrior? To which he replies that he's a researcher after all, and he's curious to find out more about Titans, what Ymir came in contact with 2,000 years ago. I know we should be losing our shit over this number, it's the title of the first episode, the first chapter, and all that. But according to Grandpa Jaeger, that event happened like 1,820 years ago. That is as specific as you can get. I don't know. Why are we being vague here now? Is Sayama planning? Is Sayama wants Ymir to become the Attack on Titan Jesus now? Anyway. To Xavier, hate and conflict seem ridiculous compared to the mysteries of the Titans, and this is why he's totally useless in war. I'm assuming then that his Beast Titan form is all right, but he somehow just convinced Marley that he's better off just researching memories. Maybe, I think that's a little bit iffy though, especially with what we know about him later in the chapter. But yeah, the scene ends with Xavier saying that both him and Zeke are decent people, which is a rare thing in this world. Yes, you guys are very decent. Yep. So Zeke is not even training anymore, doing odd jobs. In this scene specifically, he's still cleaning the floor. Probably, having PTSD flashbacks from that gender from earlier. And I'm assuming that now that he gets to do this, he can explore more of the building, go to more crazy areas, and that at that specific time, most people there were busy doing the training, which is, why these Marlian soldiers are just happen to have the most important conversation in Zeke's life. They think the building is empty or something, so they're careless. Maybe I don't know. This is all honestly. I'm gonna be honest. This is all fucking stupid. Okay, this is all pretty fucking stupid. What's up with this chapter and people just not closing their freaking doors? It's especially dumb in this scene because they're talking about how they know there's a spy among them. Why is everyone so fucking stupid? But yeah, they track the Elden restorationists and they still don't know who is doing it and where exactly, but they know that they're holding the meeting somewhere in Liberio every night, and they also know about the owl. They still need to prove to get to them, but it's just a matter of time. So we transition into the Jaegers having dinner, and Zeke is still thinking about this, and he can barely eat, and Grisha is I'm trying really hard to not hate him just blindly, but it's hard when he's fucking doing this face, okay? You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of fucking current Eren. Anyway, Zeke begs them to stop their restorationist stuff. They will be sent to Utopia as Titans if they get find out. Zeke and Dina, though, are too concerned with their desire for freedom to listen to this young kid that is just afraid of dying. Zeke then pulls the fire card, and Grisha loses his fucking shit. He genuinely looks like a fucking monster here. More so than he did when he fucking killed the rice, okay? He smacks the table, and he screams at Zeke, like the poor boy even has a little ick. and even Dina is like surprised by what she's seeing. To Grisha, Faye died because of how crazy the world is. But Zeke reminds him, if he hadn't gone outside those walls... He doesn't finish the sentence because he's too afraid. But Grisha, he has the same hateful look that he had from that day. There's a little bit of a moment of silence, and then he says, "What did I do wrong? I just wanted to see the airship." Who was in the wrong? Was it Grisha or the world? It's probably both. The crying for Zeke continues into the next scene, where Xavier finds him hiding, and then he proceeds to tell him everything. Xavier then thanks Xavier for playing catch with him, and he says that he will remember those times even if he becomes a Titan. This is kind of a stretch, but it's reminding me of Dina before she gets injected. Back in chapter 107, it looked like the moment Zeke overheard that the restorationists were going to be found out from those soldiers, he decided immediately, right then and there, that he was going to intervene, sell out everyone in the hopes of saving himself and the grandparents. It seemed like he was being portrayed as this child prodigy, like he was smart, that he knew what he had to do. I wasn't a huge fan of that, and because of that, I'm glad that this chapter went out the way it did. Showing off that wasn't the case. Zeke really is not this cliche anime mastermind. He's not fucking Aizen or whatever. Especially not back then. Young Zeke couldn't make this decision alone. Xavier was the one that suggested it to him. Selling out his parents would be the ultimate proof of his loyalty to Marley, and it should be enough to at least save him and his grandparents. Zeke, of course, is a bit reluctant by this, but Xavier tells him the truth. His parents were never concerned about him. They put him and his grandparents in danger for their reckless plans. They never loved him. And the sad thing is that, when Zeke was born, he still wasn't, part of any actual plan. The warrior program thing, was only became, an actual thing, a couple of years later. But even back then, all Grisha was seeing when this kid was born was royal blood and the hope of the Eldian restorationists. And as Xavier says all of this stuff, the panels are showing the day where Grisha and Dina are arrested. Something that we already seen before, but now it's from a different perspective. But before Grisha leaves this chapter and goes on to do his stuff in chapter 87, let's finally talk about him. So, Grisha Jaeger. Definitely not father of the year material, that's for sure. Not only did he not care about Zeke's emotional well-being, he was straight up emotionally abusive. When his child isn't eating and says that his stomach is hurting, he gets annoyed at him. When his child is showing how afraid he is of dying, all he does is start ranting about how the world is crazy. Oh, instead of, just comforting him like an actual parent. Zeke looks terrified of his dad when he starts yelling at him. To Zeke, Grisha showed that he did not care if he died, so as long as the plans worked out, plans that were too risky to not just themselves, but the grandparents who had nothing to do with anything. Please don't get too upset with what I'm gonna say right now. But I feel like me and the people that are watching, most people that are watching anyway, We are privileged, okay? And not, when I say that word, don't, like, not the political privilege word. That word, the word is tainted at this point. But, like, what I mean is, we live in a relatively safe place. Most of us, right? We don't really know what it's like to live in a society where everyone wants you dead, and you're and causing harm to you is like acceptable. It's normal. Like, we don't know what that is like. To Grisha, living in that oppression is not worth it. So he's gonna fight back. But to do something like that, to fight back oppression, you have to be willing to do morally questionable things. If not, things will hardly change. And the oppression and the suffering, like that will continue indefinitely. Just like Kruger, Grisha will do bad things to advance the cause. He will sacrifice his son for what he perceives as the greater good. That parenting shouldn't be so shocking. We saw these events before, and Grisha himself admits it. I dare say, I never once treated Zeke as Zeke, only a child with royal blood and the hope of the Eldian restorationists, is what he says. Learning the truth of his sister's death broke him. And it's in that moment where his hatred is rekindled. The thing about the previous Grisha flashback is that we saw the beginning and then we saw the end of the hatred. But this chapter, it takes place during what's probably the peak of his hatred, where he just found out the truth. This Grisha hasn't had his closure in the wall with Kruger. He still hasn't let go of his hatred. But after these events, he does try to be better fodder. Unfortunately for Keith. He saw Eren as a second chance to do things right. Unlike with Zeke, he actually showed concern over Eren's well-being. He berated Eren for being reckless with his own life during the Mikasa flashback. He knows Eren doesn't have a lot of friends and tries to help him out, give him some advice. Eren doesn't really seem to care about that. He treats Eren as Eren and not as a tool for his agenda, and lets him form his own opinions and ideals. In this page right here, not only is he expressing young Grisha's sentiments about the outside world, he also sounds similar to Kruger when he says, if there's no one to carry on, everyone who died up until now will have died in vain. Unlike Zeke, Eren showed a real desire to become a soldier, to fight and go outside the walls, even if it was dangerous. Unlike Zeke, this was not an act to please Grisha. Eren genuinely wanted this. With no brainwashing, as far as we know, there's paths and we don't know, but as far as we know, there's no brainwashing. Eren became exactly what Grisha wanted Zeke to be. Don't forget about Mikasa, by the way. I don't think Zeke's father would have taken her in, but Eren's father did. He showed concern towards her, and he invited her to join his family, and according to a subtle scene in the manga that the anime just completely butchered, they cut a lot of it, he treated her well, and Mikasa liked him, to the point that Mikasa is actually too upset to listen to Eren talk about how he ate him. In chapter 1, Grisha wanted to show Eren the basement. He was willing to tell him the truth about the outside world. What would have happened if Eren rejected being a part of these plans, being turned into a Titan? Would Grisha force him? I don't know. I don't know. Unfortunately, there was no time for any of that. The grim reminder happened, and with that came Marley, and the death of his second wife, and the basement is now inaccessible. Supposedly Grisha's term was also ending, but he didn't look sick though. He can't explain everything properly to Eren. And so Grisha, after killing a bunch of rice, says to Keith that Eren is his son, echoing the way he used to motivate Zeke, and forces a crying, begging child to get injected and dooms him to 13 short years of suffering. It's easy to look at this scenario and paint it as, like the old Grisha is back now that Marley's back and he's evil. I don't think you're wrong there. I don't think you are. But I just want you to remember that Grisha was crying when he injected Eren. Like, to me, I don't think he wanted to do this. Right? This is not something that he wanted to do, but it's something that he had to do. Like, he knows Eren. He has a real desire to become a soldier. And we know Eren. And we know what would happen if Eren didn't have the power of the Titans. Santa would eat him. And that would be a different main character. So, is Grisha the big bad? No, come on, man. Am I saying that his actions are justifiable? No, like maybe to an extent, but like he could still be more compassionate, like Dina was. I'm not saying that the man in this chapter was a good man, was a good father. I'm not saying that. All that I'm saying is that there's more chapters to this man. At the end of the day, all of us are the results of our environments. The people that we meet, the home that we live in, our parents, all of that is gonna influence us. Since this chapter focused on parenting, let's talk about other parents. Remember Carla? Like, she was cool, right? She was cool. I mean, if she was still alive, Eren would probably get air pinched to death. And I'm not really a fan of violence towards your kids, so fuck that. What about Mikasa and her parents? They were cool. Like, the only bad thing that they did, as far as I know, was opening a door without looking. They were expecting Grisha and got killed for it. It always comes back to him, the family record. With this is like the fourth family that he destroyed. Like, the others being his family in Marley, his second family in Paradise, and the Rice, and now Mikasa's parents. Like, thank you. Armin's parents looked nice, sure, but they were willing to leave the kid and fuck around in a balloon? Yeah, I don't know about that. What about Jean's mom? Oh, dude, she was like constantly interrupting his alone time in the sheets, and like she gave him an omelet in front of his classmates. That might be the worst parent like so far. Coney's mom was definitely a good parent, okay? She liked him so much that she even recognizes her son when she was a mindless titan. Now that's some fucking love right there. What about Kucho, Levi's mom? Like, Kenny suggested her to not have him, and that's not what happened. But it makes me think though, like, well, how would she do? Like, how would she go about that? Well, how would she do that? What is the abortion method in Paradise? Were there abortion methods in the medieval ages? I actually. I don't want to know about that, actually. I think I'm good. I don't think I need to know that. Let's move on, okay? I don't want to talk about this anymore. Anyway, we jump a bit into the future, and we have Zeke and Xavier playing catch. Zeke, ironically, is now a much more capable soldier, and Xavier is getting weaker because his term is ending. During this time, Xavier managed to find even more information about the Titans. I'm not sure if this was all done through memory paths, but it's, very likely. I don't know what that says about the Beast Titan, though. Maybe it's like he specifically that Titan is really important for somehow all those years ago. Anyway, according to Xavier, the Founding Titan can do more than just control the memories of the subjects of Ymir. It can also change the structure of their bodies. It's interesting to note here that Zeke at this point, he doesn't really know a whole lot about anything, really. But in the future, he somehow knows something as specific as what would happen if a royal-blooded Titan would touch a Founding Titan, right? Did this information come from Xavier in his research? Does the Beast Titan just happen to have a lot of memories related to this? Or is the royal blood in Zeke giving him access to even more special memories? Anyway, Apparently 600 years ago, an epidemic swept the world and killed a lot of people, but not the subjects of Ymir. The king at the time used the Founding Titan's power to restructure the bodies of his people, making them immune to the disease. A couple of weeks ago, before this chapter came out, there was some minor controversy on Twitter about Attack on Titan. Thankfully, it didn't escalate too much, like it didn't become like major news or something. I don't think anime onlys got spoiled, at least like actual anime only fans, right? And this controversy was about, you know, the basement plot twist. Like it was like some girl like put like the panel with Grisha and Faye and the blimps. It was like, yeah, this is World War II stuff. Those are Jews. Those are Nazis. Like, it was like a panel out of context, and people were like freaking out. Like, to them, they were like, this is anti-Semitic right here, anti-Semitic. This is Nazi propaganda. Like, immediately, and it's like, what? So if you read Attack on Titan, and that's the measure that you take, like, something is wrong with you. You read the manga, you know that's not the case. But like with these people, like they saw a panel. And they're like, oh, Nazi propaganda, like Schindler's List. Oh, Nazi propaganda, there's Nazis there, right? Like, it was like that level of dumb shit. But even though those guys were dumbasses, I thought this made me think though. Like this is such a complicated topic, but I feel like it really made me think of like what Isayama is saying accidentally or not, you know, like. The Jews of Attack on Titan can literally turn into monsters and might have done like really horrible things in the past, right? Like, you know, and that could be seen as anti-Semitic, you know, like I don't think our Jews in the real world are turning into monsters, you know. But yeah, anyway, like the main reason I'm talking about this is because this epidemic stuff, it reminded me of the Black Death plague, and how the Jewish community was blamed and persecuted because of that. The Attack on Titan plague happened like 600 years ago, and I feel like the timing and the dating is just a little too close to real world events to just be a coincidence, right? So, like, what do you think about that? Like. Do you think it's racist, problematic, anti-Semitic? Like, do you think it's lazy writing? Like, what do you think? Is there anything wrong with that, or are you like, yeah, whatever, I don't care? Like, you think it's fine? You think it's fine? Like, I'm not a Jew, you know. Like, I don't think I have problems with Nazis. They didn't do anything to me. Like, I don't know. Like that, those topics don't really like. I'm not mad. The only thing I can tell you personally is that every time we do like parallels with real world events, the only thing that I get is like I get interested in those topics, you know, like I do more research about them, and you know, which is good because like that was not the case at all when I was younger. I did not care about history that much. I was like, fuck it, whatever, you know, I'll read this, do the test, be done. But I feel like, you know, like this in Japanese history, I'm like generally fascinated, and I feel like I'm not the YouTuber for this. I'm not the guy for this because I'm not a history buff. But I would really love a history buff dude, like someone that knows it, like hit real world shit, to look at Attack on Titan and make the parallels, because I know there are. I've seen a lot of people talking about this, and I feel like an expert would have been really interesting. But yeah, what do you think about that? Like, I would love to read some comments about this. But back to the manga, though, okay? Like, back to the manga. Upon hearing Xavier's findings, Zeke remembers the gender from the first page of this chapter, and his last words were, once again, look at you, bring that little bride of yours. Why did you give birth to another devil? Wait, nudge, right? You know? And so Zeke asks Zeke if it's possible for the Founding Titan to sterilize the subjects of Ymir. With no more babies, the elderly population will slowly die in 100 years, and the world won't have to live in fear of the Titans. And if they were never born, they wouldn't suffer. To be fair, Zeke, I feel like that argument can be applied to all people in the world, not just aliens. And there's also the whole like anti-natalism thing that I've been reading recently. It's like apparently like there's people that believe that giving birth is morally wrong. And I'm like, what the fuck? I was kind of like want to go in there a little bit of this chapter, but I feel like this video is already a nightmare. Is already long enough. But If you're interested, do some research on that. It's crazy. Without children, there's no childhood drama. This is it. This is it. Zeke's objective. The thing that we've been waiting to know for so long. I've never been one to speculate too much on stuff, to the point where it just basically turns into fan fiction. Like I've never been been thinking about the future too much. And what I mean by that is that I'm not disappointed. Okay, I'm not disappointed. Like I feel like this chapter, this reveal, it justifies a lot of stuff, like his lack of remorse for killing. The whole thing about like, oh Levi, oh Perez, you guys will never understand me. Only Eren Kun, And speaking of that though, like I think it's kind of ironic, like how you would say that Levi would not understand him, considering that Levi let Eren die, so he wouldn't suffer anymore. But just a little bit of irony there. Is it ironic? Is it just funny? I don't know. But still, the fucking Mike sniffing guy situation. His death, like it's still a bit strange. Like it was still like really cruel, where it didn't need to be. It makes me wonder if Isayama had Zeke all the way figured out by that point. It probably didn't. Let's be honest here. And this reveal also put some weight into that stupid conversation that Zeke and Levi had a couple of chapters ago about being popular with the ladies. Like maybe Zeke was like actually trying to figure out if like Levi, had some children made to suffer in this cruel world. I guess you could say that to him. An Eldian saved is an Eldian flying to heaven. Upon hearing Zeke's thoughts, Xavier talks about how he used to have a family. He took off his armband at one point and married a Marleyan and had a son. Now, I find this whole story a little bit strange. Like, the wife somehow finds out this information and we don't know, we just don't know. But the result of that is she kills herself and her son in the most brutal way possible. The level of racism that you have to do something like that is fucking insane. Sure. But what I found like even stranger is just like how Xavier was not punished for this. Like Kruger said that even kids get killed if they take off their armbands. How did Xavier walk around town pretending to be a Marleyan, gets to marry this girl, big controversy happens, like a bunch of eyes are on the situation, and he gets out of there and he gets to become a warrior, number one. Number two, he's one that doesn't even fight in wars and instead gets to do what he wants to do, which is doing some research. I don't know. I think it's strange. But fuck that. Check out the monkey that the fucking Xavier's son has. It's the same one that Zeke had when he was a kid. Pretty cool. Before I move on to other shit, I really want to talk about really quickly about how the imagery of these Xavier scenes is really strong. It's awesome. There's just, especially that panel when he's picking the ball from the corpses of his family. It looks great. It reminds me of the Erwin one back in the RTS arc. There was like a mountain of corpses, and Erwin was standing on them. Really strong stuff. Like, this is good. This is great. Anyway, Xavier says that he became a warrior because he wanted to die in the grandest way possible. But during the last 13 years, he devoted himself to studying the Titans and met Zeke, who he used as a replacement for the son that he once had. Just like Zeke, Xavier thinks things would have been better if he was never born into this world. The whole thing about ending suffering by killing people is not original, nor groundbreaking. Like, sure. But this is a natural development of the story. We have seen this before, time and time again. A bunch of characters wishing they'd never been born, regretting living because they were a burden, or they made other people suffer, and if they didn't exist or never existed, they would make a lot of people happy. We saw this with Ymir, in her life before going to Paradis. We saw with Historia and her mom, and basically that whole family situation. Eren in the cave when he heard the truth of his father, and Willie in his speech, which, by the way, you gotta look at that fucking page again. Like everything was under our nose. I wish for the extinction of all aliens. Isayama shows Zeke, but I do not wish to die because I was born into this world. Isayama shows Eren. Very clever. At first, it seemed like this was more of a character arc thing, except Willie. He didn't have a character arc necessarily. Like Eren and Historia and Ymir, like they all went through that, but now, very clearly, this became the core of this arc. But the difference is that before, every time this idea came up, this wish to never be born, it would be confronted by its opposite. The idea that birth itself is a triumph, and to fight, to continue to fight and to live, because you were born into this world, you deserve these things. Like, we see this when Ymir gets her second chance at life. The story who had Ymir to get her out of her depressed state. Eren when he starts quoting Carla, and Willie who follows his own proclaim for self-genocide by immediately saying that he doesn't wish to die because he was born into this world. Xavier and Zeke never had this. After years of internalized racism, they have this terrible mentality with no one to confront it. And they'll put all their frustrations into the vague concept of being born. Xavier, you should have discouraged Zeke from having these thoughts, but honestly, the guy probably doesn't want to force anything on him, like his parents. But anyway, I think it's about time I talk about what really matters. And that is Eren. It's always Eren. It's always Eren. So, everything Zeke is doing goes against what Eren stood for. To Eren, being born is a triumph. The world itself is cruel and should be changed. People have a natural freedom, and that is their right, and they're being denied of that. So how would someone like him work with Zeke? Zeke genuinely believes that Eren is the only one that understands him. But that's it. Why would Zeke trust Eren so much? Because the moment he laid eyes on him, he started projecting his own feelings onto him. Eren, he probably had the same brainwashed upbringing that I, Zeke, have. Maybe even worse because he didn't have a Xavier to save him. As far as Zeke knows, there's no way that Grisha became a good father. That's impossible. But that's what happened. And more importantly, Carla was also there. And she was a good parent. And it was through her that Eren inherited the whole born into this world mentality. To put it simply, one believes in life and the other in death. Okay? Each believe in the opposite of the other's ideology. So, there's no way Eren would understand Zeke, which is, it's why that's even more likely now than ever that Eren is the one doing the manipulating. Like father, like son. He has Grisha's memories of Zeke to know what that guy went through and to convince him that he went through the same thing. Everyone wanted Zeke to be this anime mastermind, but Eren is the one that's doing the 4D chess. What I find interesting is that it's been heavily implied that Eren and Zeke have met in Marley. It's where they started making their big boy plans. But if they met, if they touched each other, couldn't they have enacted Zeke's plan right then and there? The range shouldn't be a problem, especially to the founding titan. It's even been clarified in this chapter a couple of pages ago. They had to be in Paradis for some reason. I'm assuming that the intention was to attract the enemies into that place to kill them all in one swoop with the rumbling, and then later, in Zeke's case, start cooking the aliens until they die. Right? I'm assuming that that's the plan. The rumbling still has to be used. There's still stuff missing here. like, how, do we even know that the cuckoning is even possible? Like, if it was, I would imagine like Karl Fritz would have done something similar. I mean, we can argue that the difference between Zeke and Karl Fritz is that the king believes that aliens deserved the suffering, you know, like because their sins are too heavy to atone for, while, you know, like Zeke wants to end the suffering by, you know, the only way he knows how. But then you have like people that, oh my god, hey, what about reversing Titans so that they can become humans again, or changing the structure so that aliens can't be turned into Titans? Like, wouldn't Karl Fritz try to do something like that if it was possible? I don't know. And like, a lot of people want to believe that Eren, this is like Eren's plan, but I feel like that is such a risky gamble. Like, he doesn't know if that's gonna work. And more importantly, like, what is stopping the next Founding Titan and Royal Titan from reversing everything that these guys are doing? Can they make another vow? But at this point, things have gotten so bad, even if the Founding Titan could change the aliens' biology so that they can't turn into Titans, like, the moment like the world discovered that, you know what's gonna happen? Like, they would start killing all aliens in the entire world because they have no use for them. That's how bad things have gotten. I always found strange that Historia was the one that had to be pregnant and not a bunch of women with Zeke's babies. We know now that, you know, this guy doesn't want any more babies. But what about Parental? Like, I guess they don't want to force unwanted babies, especially from people like they can't trust. I guess doesn't really matter. What's really funny is how Historia's baby was something that had to be done to give Zeke more time on the clock. Like he had to let this baby be born so that no more babies can be born. Childbirth and pregnancy became a major part of the story. I always thought that Historia was like directly involved with the Jaeger Bros in these plans, but now more than ever, I think number one, like she's not. She's more of a pawn, more of a piece in the puzzle, and not like a big player. But two, Eren being the father, like I know a lot of people get triggered about this, but I feel like it's getting more and more weight to it. Like because it's all for the themes of these characters. Like I said before, you know, like about being born, machine being born, all of that. But basically, Eren and Historia are pro-life, and Zeke is pro-choice. Except the choice part, only the killing babies part. But what if Historia was never pregnant? Like what if like Eren and Zeke changed her body remotely to make it look like she was pregnant? Eren and Zeke did meet in Marley, maybe. They probably touch each other. Look. All I'm saying is that Historia could be Attack on Titan's Virgin Mary. that is the stupidest shit I ever said. Okay, don't listen to that. Don't listen to that. But yeah, man, I am kind of disappointed though. I wish she was more of a player, and she is just a piece of the puzzle. Like I'm kind of sad that she's not a mastermind. You know, I miss her, and yeah, man, it looks like she's just there for baby stuff. But having said that, I still want to see her though, right? And so Zeke promises Xavier that he will inherit the best Titan. What the? But yeah, like you'll get the best Titan, sure, and the Founding Titan, yeah, and save the world and free the aliens from the suffering. Yes, very cool. Eldius euthanization. Wow, great. What a hero! What a hero! And we move on to the final scene of the chapter with Levi and Zeke. Apparently, Zeke was talking in his sleep, and Levi heard the last word. euthanization. Levi thinks Zeke is talking about himself, as in like he thinks Zeke is begging to be killed in a merciful way, and Levi says, "You're about to die inside a Titan's stinky mouth to the sound of your own body being chewed to pieces." Not very merciful. Not very merciful, but that confirms something though. It confirms that he's still planning on feeding Zeke to someone. But if that's the case, why didn't you do that with one of the Titans in the last chapter, man? I'm just saying, guys, that we could have Barris-kun right here, right now, okay? This Zeke stuff, Barris, best character. Anyway, Levi pretty much says that Zeke doesn't deserve a merciful death because of the lives that he stole. And Zeke replies that he didn't stole anything. He saved them. He saved them and the lives of the children they would birth from this cruel world. The cruel world. One of the most iconic quotes from the series, from all the way back into season 1. Most people will associate this line with Mikasa, and the follow-up, like this world is cruel, but also beautiful. To Mikasa, it's this beauty that makes living in this cruel world worth living for, worth fighting for, even if it's impossible, even if the odds are stacked against you. To Eren, and admittedly, it's an anime-only scene. The world is cruel, so you have to be cruel yourself. You have to fight back and not worry about what's right or wrong. To Bertolt, the world is cruel, and there's nothing you can do to change that. It's inevitable that the horrible things will happen, and no one is at fault. That is just how the world is. But to Zeke, the world is cruel, especially for Eldians, to the point that it's not even worth living in it. He and everyone else would have been better off if they had never been born. You know who at one point thought it would have been better if they had never been born? Ymir. Now, this is a little bit of a stretch. She, unlike all these other characters, she doesn't literally refer to the world as cruel. She doesn't literally say that. But she was hated for existing, just like Zeke, and getting rocks thrown at you is a bit cruel, right? But what Ymir learned from her experience, from her past life, is that the world is not just cruel. It's not just that. The world is also indifference. The world, it doesn't care if someone is suffering. But this realization is ultimate with Freezer. She realizes that fate is fickle, the world is indifferent, so she shouldn't care either way. Obsessing over her suffering is pointless in a world that doesn't care, and this is something that Zeke is just not doing. He cares too much about this suffering that he will do anything to end it. In his eyes, what he's doing is for the ultimate happiness of everyone, the Eldians that are suffering and the rest of the world. So I think at this point we can agree that so far this chapter has been amazing. There's some good, complex writing here, and I've been making a lot of connections to all this stuff, and there's a lot going on, heavy stuff, and it's really good. Which is why it's a shame, because what happens next might just be one of the stupidest moments in the series. Back in chapter 76, Hanji said that the Thunder Spear should only be used if there are tall objects around the target to quickly escape from the explosion. This thing is dangerous, not just for the target, but the user as well. And Levi is a smart man, okay? He definitely knows this. Using the Thunder Spear in this chapter, in this moment with Zeke, was completely unnecessary. Levi was cutting Zeke's legs as they were regenerating, so they couldn't, he couldn't transform. But even if Zeke somehow did transform, Was it what like we have seen like 3 fights, and Zeke has lost all of them. I think it's safe to say that Levi would easily destroy his ass. But for some reason, he willingly gave his prisoner the tools to become a suicide bomber, and then torture him. If your capture was cutting you up, you probably would at some point start wishing you could just Allahu Akbar everything. That is not okay to say. But you're not Zeke, okay? Like, you're not Zeke, and to be fair, Levi, Zeke, in his mind, probably looks like this crazy asshole with big plans, and actively trying to detonate the bomb and getting himself killed would ruin the plans. There's no way this guy is gonna do that. Except he does. Okay? Except he does do that. Like, for whatever reason, Zeke goes from fucking someone who would make a lot of calculated moves to Eren 2.0 and makes the biggest gamble I have ever seen and activates the bomb, okay, the Thunder Spear, potentially killing himself and sending the Beast Titan to fucking who knows, okay? Okay? Because as far as we know, the Beast Titan could fucking end up in Marley or any other country that has aliens, by the way. It's not just Marley. Oh, God. Oh. No, I'm sure that giving the beast to the enemy, in this case Paratus, isn't ideal. I'm sure. But I feel like Eren and the Jaegers would probably have an easier time, you know, getting it back and then carrying on Zeke's mission if Paratus had the beast. Because, like having the beast end up anywhere else in the world, that's game over. That's pretty much game over. Conveniently, the gamble paid off. Zeke's skull is still attached to torso, so he will regenerate himself and possibly catch a ride with the Jaegers whenever they arrive there. So, what the hell was Levi trying to do with his Thunder Spear? Zeke gets away for free, and he is the one that is in danger now. Maybe it was like just to make getting Zeke a bit harder for the Jaegers, like in case of a possible confrontation with them, like Levi would get have like some advantage or something. Like, unlike them, like Levi doesn't have a gun, and using the 3DM gear on the ground is harder. Maybe. I don't know, man. Because the justification is just it just looks like, oh my God, he was so emotional, he was not even thinking. Just the sound, I have nothing else to say. The merciful man takes away an Eldian's life. Well, that was what the initial translation said. Like, I saw like a bunch of people trying to make sense of that, you know, when the chapter came out. I might be wrong here, but I remember reading like a bunch of years ago, that a lot of these messages at the end of the chapters, they're not really like written by the author, and instead it's the magazine, like whoever's publishing it. Like, this is why like you don't see a lot of these messages at the end of the volumes. This is why I personally never really put a whole lot of thought into those messages. Like, I really don't really care, because it's not by the author. Like, it's not like they're gonna confirm Levi's fate here, you know. And like the manga, specifically in this situation, the manga stream translation, it says Eldians, plural, okay, like Eldians. So it's not just about Levi. And yes, like Hackermans are Eldians, okay? Like the Eldians, that's a nationality. Like the subject of Ymir is the actual race. But since he's an Eldian, is Levi the Eldian that got his life taken away by the merciful man? Is Levi dead, is what I'm saying. No. But he should be. The blade that he was holding should probably shattered, okay? Like, it probably shattered, and the shards should stab him. And even if it didn't, even if that's not a thing somehow, the explosion itself should be enough to make him lose a limb or 2 or 3. But honestly, he's probably gonna be fine. I'm not gonna believe anything anymore. Like, he's probably fine. Number 1, number 2. Like, it's why the river is there, you know, to save his ass. The river saved Levi. Get it? Because the Japanese cannot say the L's. Yeah. So now Levi is written off the show, just like at the end of the Female Titan arc when he injured his leg. Maybe he will actually come back at the last minute, covered in blood, like mirroring what happened in the RTS arc. When Zeke escapes, thinking that Levi is gonna get killed by those Titans. Maybe we're gonna get something like that. Maybe the next chapter is gonna make me think otherwise, but right now, this entire situation just seems really contrived in retrospect. I feel like we could have had a similar outcome, but without all of this plot-induced stupidity and conveniences. For now, though, Levi's done, Zeke gets a freebie, and Jean is in trouble. Am I being too mean here? Are you gonna cry? Are you gonna piss your pants, maybe? Maybe shit and come? Well then, you fucking normie, maybe you shouldn't unsubscribe and not watch my future videos. I'm sorry, I'm just quoting a meme, okay? Also, what's with all these character death cliffhangers? I feel like the last 5 chapters or something, but definitely like the chapters that I've been reviewing so far, like have all been ending on these, and I'm maybe it's a bit much. Maybe it's a bit much at this point. Like, has there been an important character that has died in this kind of cliffhanger? Because I don't remember right now. This chapter had a lot of stuff in it, sure. But I'm really surprised at the stuff we didn't get to see or talk about. Like, we didn't talk about Kruger or the Doctor. We didn't see Zeke eating Xavier. Nothing about the glasses, by the way. How Zeke actually got a lot of the knowledge that he has right now. We still don't know how Zeke is tricking Marley with his blood, and how Zeke has a freaking cult. That last one is especially bizarre to me, but I guess bizarre fits your lane, right? We didn't even talk about the secret ass wiping technique, man. What the hell? Not even that? Well, yeah, that's the chapter. Zeke is a virgin. Hell, he's an incel, and the Jaegers are monsters. Okay, Sergeant Gross or whatever. That guy did the world a favor by killing Faye. If she had lived, she probably would have become a monster too. Also, today we learned how to not raise your kid, which it's always useful. I'm very excited to see naked Zeke in the next chapter, by the way, and his regenerating penis. That makes me think, can you imagine Carl Fritz changing the size of his dick? Sorry, that was a strange thing to ask. If this is your first time watching a video of mine, I highly recommend my last 2 Attack on Titan reviews. They are way more edited. They're at least funnier than this video right now. Okay, I also just finished recently an entire playthrough of Kingdom Hearts 3. If you're interested in that, you can jump in on that and watch me being cynical and then being hopeful and then ultimately just being cynical. Again, that's my character arc and with that playthrough. And if you want me to make more videos and just release them faster, just go into the comments and just yell at me. Just yell at me, hey fucker, you piece of shit, make more videos, you fucking asshole, you fat fuck, whatever. Just write whatever. I need motivation. That's on you. Also subscribe. I feel like that could help too. If you're not gonna do that, I'll make videos regardless. But I'm also gonna go to my bed and grab my phone and read manga. That's what I've been doing these past few days. Read a bunch of different manga, and that's it, man. That's it. I don't have anything else to say. Just the YouTube stuff, It's on you if you want to do that or not. Usually I don't do it too. I know how that is. But hey, I'm a small guy. I'm not PewDiePie. PewDiePie doesn't need a bunch of likes, right? But I do. But that's it. I'm fucking done. Okay. This is the good shot right here. I'm just gonna put myself. That's it. Don't forget to hug your kids, by the way. I think that's the big message from this chapter, and I'll see you later. Bye.